Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And as always, we're going to date stamp this. It's year 4, blog 18, or in legacy numbers, blog number 174. Yeah, 174 weeks. And it's dated 22nd of June 2025. And yeah, it's been a interesting week as always. I hope you're going to enjoy this Vblog or blog, which has come about because basically all that time ago when I started this, I wanted to leave some sort of like legacy behind. I wanted to write down, or should I say, record what was going on in the world, what was going on in my mind. It was at a time where I was going through a grievance with work, and it seemed like a really good experiment. I love experiments. I think you can turn them off when you don't need them anymore. You can continue them because they're a curiosity. I hope that they've sort of like given a sort of a window into my life. Um, some of it people will agree with, some of it people won't. People come and go. But in the whole, it's definitely my project, and one that has become something I've come to rely upon a little bit, maybe. Something I haven't really covered upon. Could something become something that you rely upon? Um, I'd say yes. It's got me through some difficult times, and it's helped me to vent, even if it's to just an inanimate thing like this camera I'm pointing at right now, which is a Razor cam, and has probably been the best cam I've used through the times that I've had webcams. Some of the stuff that you get on laptops, good grief. Um, but anyway, I'm digressing a little bit. We start off as always. Let's get the news out the way. It's the bit that I have very minor opinions on. What goes on in the world goes on, which I have no control over. Stuff that goes on in my life, I hope I have control, but more often than not, I don't. And so therefore ends up a little bit like the news, doesn't it? But anyway, we start off with the war, because the war started between Ukraine and Russia 2 weeks before I started my blog, believe it or not. So, Kremlin says Russia is on the verge of recession as Putin prepares to address an economic forum. Maxim Reshenkov told the St. Petersburg Economic Forum that current indicators point to economic contraction. Putin is now preparing to address an event summit aimed at attracting international investment. Oh God! When you consider all of the recession, all of the stuff that we've put in place, tariffs and so forth, to knock his economy down, how much international interest is there going to be? Um, that knocked me for six. This little bit of news, I was just going. It's what most of Europe tried to do to end this war early. It's taken till now for them to hit, and that's if this story is true. It comes from the Independent and a number of other sources that I get across the web. Um, as always, I just want the war to end. So that's enough on that one. In the UK, a number of stories here. One that's very, very divided, and it was all over the news on Friday. I listened to a big chunk of it on the radio. I listened to the news articles that were on in the evening that evening, and I've been following the story ever since Esther Ranson, a well-known broadcaster on UK TV, is going to Europe. I think Sweden is where she's going to, because she's got a terminal disease and she wants to have the ability to control when she dies. It's called assisted dying. So the article reads, assisted dying bill has been passed in the Commons. The argument for and against was well broadcast on satellite TV and Radio 5, and the result was a surprise for many. Yes, it passed by 23, by a margin of 23 votes. I did hear a lot of stories against. I did hear a lot of stories for. I was in total agreement myself personally, that you've got to have a heck of a lot of legislation for this to work, and I don't think the legislation is there yet. Okay, so where in principle, when we are talking about terminal diseases that have no natural site for a cure, horrible situations that I can't imagine of sort of like giving examples to now, where the person is in excruciating pain and has been saying for a very, very long time, I just want it to end now. And, you know, what is it, like euthanasia? It's a horrible subject, but one we have to tackle. Sometimes we have to tackle the difficult subjects. This is one of them. So was I happy that it passed? I wasn't happy for or against. All I wanted was that you've got to have legislation where it can't be abused, and it will be abused. That's the thing. So I didn't want it to turn around and outrightly go, stuff that ain't happening. I wanted there to be hours and hours, months, debates on restricting this down. Okay, I'll do the figures. 70 million in the UK, say. 10% is 7 million. So 7 million. I wanted it so that this would suit 0.000000001 of that figure. Yeah, something like 70 out of a million would be able to apply for it and get it. Do you understand? I don't want it to be abused by nursing homes. There are so many people that would be requesting termination themselves when their mental state is not correct. All sorts of different things. So I do have an opinion on this one. I just don't think the legislation is there. So I would have, I suppose, liked to have seen it postponed, not taken out of the Commons to not deliberate again for many years to come. So that's my personal opinion on that one. And I am talking an incredibly small figure where I think it suits purpose. Next article is the heat wave. There's heat wave and storm warnings that have been issued across the UK all week, with some areas reporting temperatures just above 33 degrees centigrade. Yeah, the amount of YouTube stuff that have popped up in my alert box saying, don't understand why the Britons argue and complain when the temperatures are at 33. We get, that's a normal day for us, and etc. etc. And I'm going, good for you. I'm sure there are times that you're arguing about something. We look at it and go, what are you complaining about? Us in Britain have such weird weather, and other countries do as well, which we just struggle with. We struggle with snow. I mean, you'll hear the next time in the same part of this year that we don't have the resources for gritting again, and that snow's hit us and we're not sure what to do with it. Other countries, they've got heated motorways and all sorts of stuff. Their infrastructure is designed that way because they know that snow is going to hit them for months and months of their year. We get snow every, possibly once or twice a year that causes disruption of that sort of magnitude. So, of course, we're not geared or structured for it. And it comes to the same thing when it comes to the weather for heat. I'm living in a house that was built in, I think, when I looked at the plans, it was 1901. Has no air conditioning. It's a house that you could possibly get cavity wall filled. I think it is now. I think that was done by my father, so we got that done. So it's double bricked. But it's got an attic with the old style roofing. So it's bloody cold in the winter and bloody hot in the summer, and there's no air conditioning and no chance of having really an efficient air conditioning system. You can get these portable ones and all that sort of stuff, but then naff really. And those fans that you get, even the tower ones with the fins that turn around, blowing hot air around, just circulating hot air. Ones that have water that you fill in and you have to keep filling them up with water. All that sort of stuff. Faff to get something that you're going to suffer for a couple of weeks. I had the luxury, actually. I remember when I was working for the probation service, that all the network rooms, where all the servers and everything are, when somebody complained and said, oh, my computer, the network cable's not working, and I'd swap the cable out and it wasn't working, and I'd have to go into the server room to do some patchwork. I'd go in there and I'd go, ho, the air conditioning in here, absolutely marvellous. And I'd, might spend half an hour on a job that probably would take about 15 minutes. You know what I mean? Go, yeah, I think I'll bathe in this a little bit. I'll tidy up I say I had to tidy up the room, and I'd move a few boxes around a little bit, make it look like something was happening. And then, they'd call me a lucky sod for having that ability to use the security key for me to go in, because obviously I'm security checked to be able to allow me into those technology rooms. So yeah, that brings back a happy memory thinking about those. Those were the days in the office and going into a network room. Yeah, brilliant. And the last story is River Island have announced the closure of 33 shops across dozens of locations, threatening hundreds of jobs. And they cited online shopping and the dying high streets for the reason that they're closing the shops down. Sad story. We've seen it and heard it a lot over the last 15 years, I would say. The dying high street, the rise of online shopping, Amazon, all of that being thrown in. And, there's nothing to say other than it's only going to keep happening. As our shopping habits allow us to buy clothes without even putting them on, getting them, putting them on, they don't fit, sending them back and getting your money back, or another item slightly larger or slightly smaller or whatever, then the only thing that's happening is that you're losing time, because you could go down in your car or walk into a high street, try the clothes on, and they'd fit, and then you'd walk away with the item that you wanted, and that would be in the same day, not in days. But it's open to abuse again, where you could order an outfit, wear it that weekend, and send it back saying, wasn't for me. And there'd be no quibbles from Amazon. The only things they don't do that is with underwear and swimming garments and things like that. Medical reasons, health, safety, all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, while you've got that flexibility, River Island, just like Burton's from years ago and all of those, haven't got a chance. And it's a shame. I used to like going into River Island and Burton's back in my 20s and 30s to buy an outfit to go out that night pubbing, and I'd have a different outfit on and I'd feel $1,000,000 and I'd be going, God, look at me, I'm Tom Cruise. More like Sea Cruise. And, feeling great, looking forward to that. It was nice to go into town and try on all these different jackets and trousers and shirts and all that sort of stuff. It was a nice afternoon for then when I got back, had a bath, got myself all ready, pruned up, out the door. Something to look forward to. Don't have those sort of things to look forward to anymore. No, those years have gone. So that was that. Oh, forgot to turn my phone sound off, so just bear with me. There we go. So I'll just explain just before I came on to actually record this. We got the new ramps this week for my mum's wheelchair for her to go out. And we've just tried it for the first time and we realised that there's no seat belt on it, and you have to get the ramp, the wheelchair up over the lip of the door frame and then down a deep, sort of like steep incline to get to the driveway. And my sister wasn't very comfortable with it, and I can understand why. She's got foot stirrups, and I was in the front of the wheelchair, keeping my mum pressed against the chair. And my sister was controlling the chair, but it is very difficult to hold a weight to control it going down. It would probably require someone like me to do that and my sister to do. There's things like norms that we've got to come up with, but the obvious thing was to my sister was, look, if you're not willing to do the test now, when are you willing to do it? And the other thing is they've supplied it to us. If we're never going to use them, we need to give them back. And we'll have the wheelchair out in the drive and we'll use the Zimmer frame to walk her to it. It's one or the other. So we decided, yeah, bite the bullet. Let's do it today. The weather's lovely. Get mum out in some fresh air. Maybe the fresh air will keep her awake and not make her sleep so much. That dry air in the front room, even with windows open, can't be helping with sleep and the heat. So we're hoping that this little walk around the park is going to be good. But it's up against another problem that happened on Thursday. So I'm going to jump ahead to Thursday. The GP was coming to see my mum on Friday. And Friday is when I usually take my mum to get her hair done. And my sister quite sort of like innocently told her and said, it's a bit difficult for the doctor to turn up at the time that they stated, because that's the day that we tried to keep normality for my mother and get her to go into town to have her hair done. And the lady on the other end of the phone, who was from the doctor's surgery, said, I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. So my sister questioned, what, why? And she said, because your mother is listed as immobile and housebound. The important word being housebound, because if your mother is not designated as housebound, then she has the ability to come down here and the doctors are to come, not to come to you, but you to come to the doctor. And our argument to that was, well, that's ridiculous. Are you saying that you're promoting my mother to never be able to leave the front door? Which is pretty much what they were saying, and they are pretty much answered yes to that. So my sister's taken a gamble taking my mother out the door today to go in a wheelchair around the park because she's housebound. Mental. Drove us nuts. We ranted and vented at each other on how the National Health Service does not help themselves in regards to understanding that when somebody is immobile, they're immobile, and that my mother is not walking around. She's on a Zimmer frame to go to the hairdressers, or she's in a wheelchair to go around the park. That's an immobile person. And trying to get her into the car takes 20 minutes to get in and 20 minutes to get out, and lots and lots of pain to move her legs. And the doctors are saying, oh, we ain't got a lot of time, so we don't want to keep doing these home visits. So we'll make it that housebound means they can't leave the house. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. Drove us nuts anyway. But we have got to the bit where I talk about my week. Monday and Tuesday were pretty much normal days. Tuesday I have physio in the afternoon, so it's a day and a half of work, and then half a day where I'm doing physio and I get an extra probably hour to myself on top of my lunch for me to do things. But it's still not enough for me to do YouTube stuff or whatever. I'm generally just catching up. It's a day where I get about an hour reprise to everybody else, which I make up by starting early in the morning. So all that happened is that I chased the tablets for my mum for folic acid and barrier cream, and that's because we had a delivery of tablets and those items were not there. So they said I had to speak to the prescription people to get that redone, and the doctor's surgery was on half day that day. Drove me nuts again, honestly, just drove me nuts. So they agreed to do the repeat prescription and told me it would take several days, and I said okay, but I said do remember that drugs of this nature are delivered by your delivery team. I don't want to come down and pick these up. And she made a note. But come Thursday, I get a text message on my phone saying the tablets and the barrier cream are ready for pickup. What a waste. And then you have to make another phone call to them to say you're supposed to drop these off, deliver them. It's not for me to pick them up. And when you try to phone them up, it's engaged. Well, they don't pick up. So that stuff is still there. Gonna have to obviously spend the next Monday, which is tomorrow, picking those up. So Tuesday came and went really as well. It's physio in the afternoon. There's nothing really much to report. And Wednesday was a bit of a surprise, really. It started off with my new sort of like line manager. He's not a manager. He sort of like supervises the analysts, right? And I understand what he's trying to do, but I told him I'm skeptical on the whole thing. What it was, he gave us a website called 16 Personalities. Right? And he wanted each of us to go down 100 questions, and at the end you'll get a personality trait, a code which you use against a table, and it will tell you what your strengths and weaknesses are. And I said, I'm sorry, but I look at these things as being no more worth than what my sister would fill in a Bunty or Looking magazine back in the 70s, where you had to answer questions on, is your boyfriend introvert or extrovert? Answer these 10 questions below. No more than that. I find them infuriating a little bit, especially if a manager or a supervisor is going to use the results on giving you projects and things. And I voiced that concern to him, and I said, I don't mind doing it for fun, but I don't at all want the results to come back that you've chosen me, taken me off of a project because of something I answered on a website's questionnaire. He never gave me the answer to say that that would be the case, but I did put it in an email to him saying, here is my answers. These are not to be used in any business decision. And I put that as a disclaimer at the bottom. Now, whether I'm heard or not, don't know. But anyway, I did what I knew would probably infuriate, but I did it to prove something. So I answered it, cleared my mind and answered it truthfully the first time. And the next day, I did it a second time. Cleared my mind, did it a second time. And I got 2 different answers. Right? The first time I answered, it said I'm heavy into working with a team. Then I use empathy. All of this, I was agreeing with, and all of that. I'm an introvert. Don't have full confidence. A person that is very methodical and organised, open to suggestion. What else did it say? A person that would not lead, but would be led by an extrovert person. Okay. The next one said I was an architect. That was the avatar that he gave me. Architect. It said I was methodical, logical, and then it used things like doesn't care about people's feelings to make a logical, stern decision on something. Always looking for efficiency. Always looking for money-saving ways to help the company, and willing to take those hard decisions and have those with people, and is very confident. Now, all of the time you've got a table down the bottom with percentages, between judgment and tolerant and all of this sort of stuff. And there were swings of 5-6% max on some of the stuff. Some of it was virtually the same, and some of it was swings of 5 or 6%. And those swings of 5 or 6% turned me from being a stern person that didn't give a shit about someone to being somebody that totally gives a shit about someone and basically uses empathy to see their point of view. And this is where I went back to the manager on the Friday with my results, and just before the meeting explained this to him. But we're digressing. That happened on the Friday. So we had the doctor's visit on Wednesday that took blood from my mother. It was actually a paramedic, not the doctor. It was a paramedic. The doctor was supposed to be coming Friday. And that was to find out some other things about why my mum's so tired, vitamin deficiencies, any other stuff. We need to give her a urine sample. I think then that's finished. We've done this a couple of times now in the last 3 months. So we know her blood pressure's okay, because we're regularly doing that ourselves. But my mum is complaining of feeling giddy at points and nearly falls backwards when we get her out of chairs and onto the commode and all that sort of stuff. So that's why we had that happen. And Wednesday was my evening with Ian Hill, the Ramblings, where I had a great time. The numbers went up slightly as well. We saw that. We were talking about all sorts of stuff. The latest film that we talked about was Sinners, which I found to be an absolute fantastic film. I loved Sinners. Ian felt the same. He actually goes one further and has it in his top 3 films of this year. I don't think I know enough for me to do that, but it's definitely up there. I really, really liked it. Definitely a cinema experience for that one. And we talked everything: food, TV, just like as if you were sitting in a pub with your mate while eating a packet of Walkers and a pint in your hand, chatting about the world, and with other people chatting in, you know, and asking some questions. That's pretty much how we do our chats. We don't have an agenda. Um, we I don't think we've sort of like answered the same question twice in the same month at least. So I think it's a very enjoyable thing, and it keeps my mind active. That's the thing. I have to think on my feet. I'm not very good now with names and years and directors and stuff anymore. There are times when I need a prompt on that, and I will get confused. But everybody is very kind to that. I think they realise, with everything that's going on in our minds, who the director was of a 1975 film is hardly a killer thing to say what a bag of shit something is, when all of the stuff that's going on with my mum, all the stuff that's going on in Ian's life are there, and we're just having a nice general chat. It's not there to cite somebody out that their knowledge is not what it appears to be. Sometimes you'd ask a question and have difficulty answering it. The next day you'd feed it back to yourself and say, why did I have a problem with that? Of course it's that. Jesus. Because you're in a more relaxed frame of mind. So, yeah. Ian Hill, The Ramblings. Do go and subscribe if you can to Ian Hill, The Ramblings. Or at least go and watch one of these talks. They're absolutely fantastic. We have great fun. And I don't think I'd know what I'd do with myself if Wednesday wasn't there. Do you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be a showstopper and I'd find something. But what I'm trying to say is, for now, it's something I look forward to. It's not something that I dread. And that's after 60 odd episodes of doing it. We've been doing it 60 odd weeks. We're well over a year now. So, yeah, brilliant. Get to Thursday, and I noticed that I've got a pump sprayer, sort of like a great big plastic bauble with a hose pipe coming out of it, with a handle and a sprayer, and I spray it on the driveway with a concoction I make to kill weeds without discolouring the bricks. It's very easy. It's a very, very strong white vinegar, cooking vinegar, 10%, somewhere around there. Salt and washing up detergent liquid, And you put that into the hand pump and you pump it up and spray it. But what I noticed is, after having this pump for about 3 years now, I don't have to push the hand nozzle down for it to start spraying out the front. And I know we needed a new one of these pump ones, but we needed an electric one because we want to creosote the fence. So I bought an electronic one, but also bought a part to fix this one. And the electric one never turned up. And I was charged for it, and it was told by Amazon it was handed to resident. So I had to phone them up again and tell them, if it was left on the step, this is their own stupid fault, because my instructions state don't leave anything on the step, ever. And I looked around and it wasn't with the neighbours, and I waited 24 hours and they gave me my money back. And I went down to B&Q and bought an equivalent. with a difference of around about a fiver. It was about a fiver more expensive than Amazon. I don't know whether the quality is as good or worse, but it's a pain in the arse. You know, I don't blame Amazon wholly. It's 95% the driver and 5% Amazon in my mind, if you were looking at it from a percentage point of view. And that is that Amazon have their own drivers and they train them up really well. It's in a documentary on it. If that documentary is correct, then I'd say they do train them well. The downside of it is that if they don't have drivers, then they hire subcontractors, men with vans. They call them. Used to call them man with the van. Can't really call it that now in this day and age. Person with a van. There you go. Trying not to hurt anybody's feelings here. And they give them a load of parcels and a route and say that you need to deliver all of these to get your money at the end of the day. You know, I dare say there are things that will happen if they don't do it in the time scale. And the amount they must give them means that they've got the ability to get out the van, knock on the door, and then walk away without waiting for the door to be answered, and then go. And it's all down to how many they give to the driver. Unless the driver has actually instructed them, I want 100 parcels, you know. If that's the case, then the driver's at fault. But anyway, I digress a little bit. That's what happened with the electric sprayer. And I used that concoction, which is vinegar, salt, and hand soap detergent. And the weeds are all going brown. Absolutely fantastic. We've had such great sunny weather, no rain, that you know, that vinegar, which is like an acid to it, that salt which dries out the roots, and the soap which sticks to the leaves, that's the whole reason for the free parts, really does work. Such a good way of doing it. Quite economical. You can buy 5-litre tubs of vinegar for around about £6. Right? Salt is salt, and soap or hands, you know, or washing up liquid is fairly cheap as well. You can buy eco stuff. You only need a squidge. You don't need a lot. So you've got yourself something that's cheaper than buying Roundup or something. You know, one of the big brands that make weed killers. Which, I mean, I've seen some of them. They come in a little spray bottle that looks like it's supposed to be sprayed on roses, and it costs something like 14 quid or something, like you were buying some sort of secret ingredient thing, and it probably the only secret ingredient is got bicarbonate of soda in it or something stupid. So yeah, there is that. So that was good. That was Wednesday, wasn't it? Thursday. Oh, that was Wednesday and Thursday. Yeah, that's right. Just looking here. Yeah, so that was the hand sprayer and all of that sort of stuff. Friday, when we get to Friday, it was that 16 personalities, and as I said, I had a little meeting with my manager and told him what I'd put in my email and all of that sort of stuff. And we all had fun reading out at 2 o'clock our answers. I read out both of mine. I did explain the reason why, and I did say you cannot say, and you'll never be able to convince me that a person that is not very emotional and therefore doesn't use empathy and is confident to give the you know, those horrible conversations, you know, out where you've been sacked or whatever, you know, like a manager has to do, doesn't sometimes have emotion to make a decision on something. It's not one or the other. It's not black or white, and that's why these questions are structured in a way where they'll ask you the same question twice, but in a different way to try and catch you out. But the trouble is, if you've done no end of these multiple guesses or whatever it is type stuff, or answered truthfully with these things, you'll know that your attitude is probably different in the morning than it is the afternoon and all sorts of stuff. So to actually shape someone's career or life based on a personality thing, I don't agree with it. And I told him, I said, I'm all for people saying, oh, you know, you've got those traits that make you, I don't know, what's the word? I can't think of the word now. I do apologise, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm trying to say. Somebody will come up with some personality trait that you go, no, that's not me. And say, well, you've got those tendencies. I'm sorry, that's how you come across to me. And my answer to managers we've always that is, show me your psychological degree, please. Where are you getting this from? That's just how I am with you, because of the way you talk to me. You know, I'm very reactive to how you speak to me. I have a feeling that you jest about me behind my back, that sort of thing. So maybe the problem is not with me, but the problem is with you and how you talk to people. Because I'm the sort of first person to put my hands up and say, hey, I'm in the wrong. I know where I went wrong on this. I've looked back, I've analysed it to death and gone in my mind about what was said and whatever, and I've come to the conclusion, boom, my fault. Yeah, I know where I went wrong. Sorry. Totally didn't mean to go down that path. You know what I mean? It's going to annoy me if I don't look this up, so you'll have to excuse me, but it's annoying. That's it. Psychology traits. Yeah, it began with N. I won't look too hard, but it's those sort of words like narcissist. Do you know what I mean? So I actually turned around and said to this manager that was turning around and saying something about me that I didn't agree, and I said, you've got narcissistic tendencies. You know, and he said that's the first time somebody's come up to me and said that. And I said, well, maybe I'm the first person that's been honest enough to tell you. Isn't honesty something to do with psychology in regards to traits and so forth? So yeah, you know, I think what he made it out to be is that I'm a nice person, but would always go out of my way to make somebody stumble up or something. And I can't remember what that trait was, but I didn't like the word. Oops. If I could spell. Yeah, personality disorders it comes under. Christ, there's bloody tons of stuff like this. This is where I go, how come managers turn round and say that they know what they're talking about when there's books and books and books, you know, in regards to this. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely. I look at it and I just go, nah. Yeah, the more I look at it, the more I get angry. about it, so we won't go down that route. Anyway, so I completed the 16 personalities, charged up the hand spray, the electric sprayer, and on Saturday I prepped my blog, and I cut the deadheads off of the roses so that they will grow again during the summer towards the end of. If you don't cut deadheads off, basically the nutrients just stay at the end of the heads, and they basically don't go to other areas of the bush. So yeah, I cut the deadheads off, and here we are on Sunday. So that's pretty much my week, and I'm sorry that I made that a little bit longer looking for what it was. It was, the narcissistic and all that sort of stuff. Drives me nuts when managers think that they know what they're talking about in regards to this. And I'm totally agreeing that if you go to a community group of people, that are having difficulties, that those people are educated and qualified. Don't believe managers are, unless they come from that background. And then I'd say, show me your credentials. It's just the way I am. That's all it is. So we get to the shout outs. And this is the area that I love, because it's where people have actually sort of like commented and wish me well and all of that sort of stuff. And it cheers me up, when I see the amount of numbers that are watching this. And basically I've got a huge chunk of people that watch this, and a lot of them are vocal about it, and those people I thank, because they ask me questions and so forth. But anybody who watches it and gives an indication that they watch it, I love that. Fantastic. So just want to thank these people that have left a comment. They are this week Wee Bob Art, Muckman-Movies, Ian Hill The Ramblings, Gans Teeth, Mar Troyd, Steve's Gaming Part 2, Colin Jones aka Ponder, and Robert's Retro Gaming. And there might be the odd one else that I've missed here, because I write this out on a Saturday, and on Sunday overnight, you see, people do sort of like comment. I forgot to say on Friday that my friend Denny tried to call me, and he unfortunately called me at a time where I was spending a lot of time with my mum. It was a very busy day on Friday, as you can imagine, with that hairdresser, the doctor that turned up, getting my mum her tea, cooking my tea, doing the garden, getting the commode and all of that sort of stuff. It's literally, I'm not by my phone 100%, and so therefore I miss calls, and when I do call them back, an hour's gone by and that opportunity of a chat goes. It's just one of those things. So I just want to say a big thank you to Denny for understanding. Sorry, mate, I missed your call. Never used to happen in the past. Now it's the way of life for me now at the moment. But I do appreciate the ability to try. So now I've read those people out, I just want to say thank you very much for those, and for all those people that are watching, absolutely fantastic. And in just a moment, I'm going to read out all the comments, which I love to do. I just need to basically open a window or two. It's getting hot in here, and splash my face with a bit of water, and then we'll get crack-a-lacking. All right, won't be a moment. And I'm back, and it's only been like literally splashed my face. My mum and sister are not back yet. I'm still waiting for the little noise on my call button to say that they're back. And I'm glad I did, because I looked a little on YouTube, and my friend Robert has just done a game on the Spectrum and released it. And it was a game that Steve gave me as part of my friend's request, which eggs me on to that little thing where I haven't been able to do my friend's requests this week. I've got 2 games to do now. One of them didn't matter because it's an absolute stalwart classic, so it didn't matter that I know what that is. I'm looking forward to doing that one, because you could actually do a whole 2 or 3 hour talk on the damn game. Everybody knows it. But the other one, want to get that done as quickly as possible, because as a word, I don't recognise it. As a game, therefore, I don't recognise it. And I'm not therefore going to recognise it until I load it up. And I refuse to look and find out these things. So I've tried to ask my friends to give it me a couple of days before so that I can't cheat. But it didn't really matter with one of my friends because everybody knows it. But it'll be a fun one to do anyway, and one that I can tick off my box and say I've actually shown people me playing that game. So that's going to be great. So I digress a little bit. We're going to the comments, and the first one that's here is my friend Ian Hill, The Ramblings, believe it or not. These aren't in any particular order. I don't put them into newest, oldest, and all that. It's how YouTube display them to me. And he starts off with, "Hi Del Boy, hope you and your mum are okay and coping with this heat wave. I can't help laugh at myself complaining it's too hot when I was complaining it was too cold. I don't like weather." Laugh out loud. "Give me spring and autumn all the time. I think it's part of our country's character complaining, yet we can do the obedient and join queues without any fuss. Do you remember in the past when you had people queuing overnight or even days on these after Christmas sales? I've seen through sales where mob-like mentality takes over and you have people pushing, shoving and fighting over goods and appliances." Yeah, I mean, I've been in queues all the time. I think America does queues the best. I remember going on the Back to the Future ride at Universal Studios in both Florida and California, and both of those had things for you to watch and do, and people doing mimes and all sorts of stuff while you queued for this ride. And I remember once I went out of season and I got in loads really quickly, and I went one that was in season. Everybody was off on their holidays. There was a queue a mile long, and it said, even said at certain points, if you're standing at this point, you are this many minutes away, possibly. And it was gone past the 45-minute mark on the time that I went when it was in season. So, but I didn't care. I was looking at all this dock through time stuff that was on all the monitors and all the paraphernalia that they handed out for you to read before you went in and all this sort of stuff. So I had plenty to do. Didn't really bother me one bit. Much better experience though out of season, I will say that. But I do remember being in queues like when a console had just come out at Christmas. When you've got that one present you forgot, and you've got to park. I tell you, the worst thing is not actually the queues, it's the parking. That's what annoyed me the most. Christ, parking. Bloody half-hour bays, hour bays, disabled bays, trying to back in, people waiting to one side until somebody comes out so they can go in, or others that are just driving round and round and round until an opportunity comes in. And it drives me nuts. But that's a similar thing to queuing. But I do complain about that a lot. You carry on. I have not had a bad week in terms of my health. I felt more comfortable, and I've been able to cope with leg pains. As usual, we had an enjoyable live stream. Our supporters always contribute such a lot, and they do. Cy Robson, Tony York, Muckman-Movies, just to name some of them. Gans Teeth, I think, is there sometimes. Lots and lots of people that just come in and they ask us all sorts of lovely questions or just have a nice conversation. Steve's Gaming's there early on, as is Wee Bob Art. So we have some people that are more into the games than films. Hate that term. Are you more into games, more into films? Why can't you be both? It's why I tried to get into the film side of things, because I wanted to expand my knowledge into those areas, but it always seems like there's this divide. Oh, you're either one or the other. Never understood that. Like I say, television has been a big part of my history, as is computers. Computers shaped my careers. TV shaped what has opened my mind to possibilities on things, just like reading does. So, I continue here with what Ian says. One of the highlights of the week for me was watching Sinners. Remember I talked about that earlier. which you sent me as a download for me. I can see it being one of my favourite films of the year. I would get a physical media copy when it's released. Yes, I've ordered mine, steelbook. Um, isn't it exciting thinking about all the films we will love that nobody knew about at the beginning of the year? Question mark. I remember all those lists of films people were looking forward to. Sinners was a vampire film with a great period piece around the time of the Great Depression. Also, a great insight into black American culture through the music of the blues. I love the music and knowing how influential it was in the terms of music history. Gospel and folk music were important in its creation. It's good to see a film which makes such an impression on me. So my question this week, and I won't make it too difficult, what are your favourite period dramas which you enjoyed? Or my best wishes to you. Have a reek grand time. Wow, what a question. And period dramas or costume dramas as they used to call them. Always used to be a word used for the past, and usually the distant past at that, although it can be World War II and it can be Nam and all of that. They're all period pieces or costume dramas. So many you could mention here. A couple of years back, there's a very lovely lady that I like to watch on occasion called Olivia Colman. In Britain, we know her best, but she was in a film called The Favourite, and it's about Queen Anne, and she was a very intolerant person, very emotional, fleets of rants, which is what I try and do, a rant usually during a stream with Ian, but it's to make him laugh. But you know, it made me laugh watching Olivia Colman play that person, and it had Emma Stone in it as well. It was a great film, and it was one that came out the blue. Came out, I think, at the same time as Mary, Queen of Scots, and I think it got buried because of that. But The Favourite is one that I've got in my collection, and I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. Ones that come to mind: Barry Lyndon. That's a Stanley Kubrick period drama. Very lavish. Not a lot of people like that one, but I actually do. And I sometimes load that one up and have a good time watching it. Just for the spectacle of the thing. But most people will know that one that I always go back to, and I probably watch it once or twice every couple of years, and that is the Elizabeth I dual movies. There's one called Elizabeth and one called Elizabeth the Golden Age, and it's got Kate Blanchett playing Queen Elizabeth I. Again, it's Tudors, the Tudors. I'm very big on Henry VIII, Elizabeth I, all of that sort of stuff. I know that history more. Cromwell, all of that sort of stuff. And so I like all that spectacle, but that's not to say that I don't like French history as well. Versailles and all of that sort of stuff have been on TV, and I've watched those great productions about aristocrats and beheaded, having their heads beheaded for being aristocrats and all of that sort of stuff. So love that. And then, of course, because of the love of the Tudors, there was an actual TV show called The Tudors. It lasted 4 seasons. Even had Sam Neill in it in the first season. That was brilliant. I like the story of Henry VIII. His character, every time somebody plays the character, there's always something new or a trait that I see that go, wow, I didn't know that was a trait of him. Because he was very much a person that was more a tyrant towards the end, and more lovable or likable at the beginning, but he was a monarch for many, many years, one of the leading ones, until Elizabeth I basically knocked that record on the hat, and then of course our own Elizabeth II has knocked that one flying. So anyway, I digress a little bit there. But how can I not mention period dramas and because I mentioned dramas, and they always usually say they're stuffy and that, but they do have humour in them. Without mentioning Carry On Henry, Carry On Dick, and Carry On Don't Lose Your Head. We all know these Dick Turpin TV shows and Henry, the Six Wives of Henry VIII, and all of that, and it's great to see a parody of them. We've seen it for Robin Hood, you know, a mythical character, and Arthur and his Round Table, Camelot. I'm sucked into these. I love them. Seeing people dressed in armour, the sword, the mythology of magicians and wizards and all sorts of stuff. But I think I'll name those, and it wasn't hard at all. Thank you very much, Ian. In fact, nice memories. Brilliant. Thank you for that. Salute, my friend, and look forward to this Wednesday. So we'll move down, and some of these things, they're really quite short. The next one is Gan's Teeth. He says, I look forward to seeing you cover some classic era Doctor Who stories. Wishing you and your mother all the best. Yes, that's because I did say to Ian in Wednesday, or should I say threaten, that we ought to choose a Doctor and do a retrospective, not of a particular story, but of how that actor portrayed that particular Doctor, and whether it worked in the period of time that it was broadcast in, whether it was ahead of its time or it's too antiquated, didn't work, etc., etc., or just too out of space, even though it is a science fiction show. So I put that idea out there, and Ian said he was open to it, and I said I'd like to get some other people involved as well. I know Denny would love it. Maybe get someone like Muckman-Movies to come in or whatever, because it might not necessarily have to be about Doctor Who. It could be the Invaders, it could be the Protectors, the Persuaders, the Champions, Randall and Hopkirk. It could be anything. Do you know what I mean? It all depends on your passion, what you want to talk about. So yeah, that idea was out there, and thank you very much, Gan's Teeth. My salute to you. And we get to now we get to a regular, my friend Steve's Gaming, who sent me some lovely books last week. He's now got, because he's a greedy bastard, I mean, he's a lovely person, he's now got 2 channels on YouTube. And I always do my little salutes. Steve, I hate you, you fucking little shit, you bastard, I hate you, because it's just too damn good. He makes him laugh, I hope. And he's come up with a comment and a couple of questions. Hi Del, another great blog, thank you. This has been a bit of a crappy week for me. I've had toothache on and off. My dentist is on annual leave. Just my luck. So you can slow cook, you say. Nice. I can't cook a damn thing. I couldn't even do toast if you ask me. My wife has always made our meals, and many times I've offered to have a go, but no, she wants to do it all. So when it comes to cooking, I'm beyond useless. Now on with the questions. Question 1. Okay, here we go. Have you ever had to throw a t-shirt away because it was worn out and you hated losing it? I could mention several, but I have a really nice Formula 1 Benetton Michael Schumacher World Champion t-shirt that I loved to bits, and eventually it was worn out and had holes in it. I was gutted to throw it away. That's a really good question, because yes, I've got some t-shirts and they have got holes in it. It's where I've pulled it and the hole has appeared at the seam at the back, or the armpits have got holes in because just over wear, sweat and all of that sort of stuff over the years. The type of cloth they use. I tend to find the Fruit of the Loom t-shirts to be the best quality still, even after all these years, but I might be wrong with that. And I've bought some t-shirts I've never worn. I bought them as souvenirs when I went to Vegas and California and Phoenix, Arizona, New York, Florida, Cape Canaveral. Got a number of t-shirts, all from Universal Studios and MGM and Epcot and Disney. So many happy times, and I can remember each and every one of those t-shirts, where I bought it from, why I bought it, etc, etc, and they're all still folded up, not used, and I take them out on occasion, just to make sure that moths and everything are not getting to them, or holes, or they're degrading, whatever. But there are t-shirts, yes, I've had to throw away, Spider-Man ones mostly, that have just withered and died. So yeah, it is a natural occurrence, and I do have a problem with it. Question 2. Do you have a shameful game you enjoy but don't want to admit it? I will admit I've played Hogwarts a bit recently and really liked it, even though I have no interest in the whole Harry Potter universe. It's just a fun open world, but shh, I won't admit I like it. To anyone else. All the best to yourself and your mum, mate. Thank you so much. No, absolutely brilliant. Ooh, difficult. Let's see, let me think. I suppose during the chats that I've had with people, I never had a problem with a game. What's the best way to explain it? Until somebody has actually turned around and said how much they despise it and the reason. One of those is Peridius. It's a Japanese game. It's a bit like Nemesis or Gradius. But it's cutesy. It's got your ship that looks like an octopus or a mouse or something. And you're firing at equally cutie enemies that are just as dangerous as all the hard-hitting ones that look like a spaceship and have got nuclear engines in the ships of the people that are attacking you, etc, etc. So Peridius is a game. Yeah, I think I'm going to mention that one as a typical example. Yeah, absolutely fantastic question. Thank you so much. Hope it answered it for you. Like I say, just got to take another break. It's bloody hot today. Jesus. Honestly, won't be a moment. And we continue, and I've got a drink with ice cubes in now because it's that hot. And while I was getting that, my sister came back and she showed me a picture of my mum in a cafe. I gave them some money and they went to a cafe, and she took a walk, and she's awake and reading the paper. It looks like the fresh air is keeping her awake longer. Don't know how long that'll last, but that's hopefully a good sign. And we move past, I believe, Steve, where I was telling him about Peridius. That was it. Yeah, bastard. You know, you'll get your bloody channels just too good. And we'll move to my friend Colin Jones, who's also got a great channel, got a blog, talks technical things, absolutely marvellous. And let's see what he's put. As someone who has worked in the aviation industry and have flown light aircraft, I can quite categorically state that the takeoff of an aircraft... Oh, right. So this is that message from a guy that worked for BA, and he said about the expelling of fuel when it takes off and so forth. I may have got the percentages wrong, but he said a lot is taken off in taken off, then you're sort of like a glider, and then the rest of the small percentages done at the end. I probably said 70-30, something like that. But this is a memory from the 90s. It's now 2025. So here we go. That was just a little memory story. Take off an aircraft is equivalent to putting your foot down in a car to get up to speed. Okay, it goes on for a bit longer, but it's roughly 20% fuel from taxi to cruise altitude. Now, remember, he was flying transatlantic flights. But again, he could not saying anything here about this. Landing is done at idle at very low power and uses very little fuel, so that was correct. So you use more when you take it off and so forth. I have a feeling that he was pulling your strings because 70% fuel use take off. See, this is where I'm saying it's literally being taken. I 25, 30 odd years ago, he's just told me that the most when you take off, least when you land, gliding like a brick, which is the main bits that you take away, or what I hoped. Because 70% fuel takeoff is absolute bollocks. Yeah, it probably is. Like I said, not going to remember the percentages, but it's quite right. The idea of what I said there, though, is correct. You take off more, idle, little fuel when you're landing, all correct. But apologies. And I put that in my disclaimer, by the way. Sorry if I get any facts or figures wrong. It is all from memory. And it's all very good because I learned something, you see. And to be quite honest, he could have been talking bollocks to me, and it wasn't me that I only partake on what he told me. This guy was a lovely guy though, and he got me cheap tickets to Florida one year because he bought them before me, and he got a discount because obviously he's a pilot, captain at that. So that's all very true. So that's great. I hope the water tablets get rid of that swelling without too many side effects. Sending my regards to your mum as always. And I always pass these on, Colin, so thank you very much. You'll probably be inundated with squirrels at the bird feeder too. Not at the moment, believe it or not. But I expected that. Caramel ice cream for me, it's whipped, then all the better. Yeah, my mum loves caramel. She likes caramel dairy milk as well. The square chocolate things. But most of the time my mum likes vanilla with fruit and meringue, so she has that, what they call mess, or whatever it is when you mix meringue with ice cream. You're hiding your uploads. That would explain a lot. Yes, that's the lovely thing about Colin. He pointed out something to me. I've started to upload stuff. No point me showing it at the moment. It's all stuff from 4 years ago. It's supposed to be my backup store, and I'm very pleased that I've seen the channels that my friend Colin has got. By the way, it's under Odyssey. Please go and have a visit to Odyssey. It's like YouTube, and he's got all his stuff there. Pass it on. Absolutely fantastic place to visit. Your mum and the hairdresser. Yes, normality is very important in this case. Yeah, and it's why it infuriated me earlier with that housebound thing. Pisses me off no end, I'm keeping the Switch unmodded. I have other emulation devices that will work just fine. Yeah, but you can unmod it for the horrible reasons, piracy, not necessarily for emulation. But I totally get that. That's what the jailbreak was on the Switch I had. It makes sense why they wanted it next door with their lad, because he's just bought a car. So yeah. As I'm watching, I was reminded that I saw the Switch 2 was in stock at Argos, so that's out of the way now. Brilliant. Like I said, it was there literally the day after for me, and I saw a lot of people saying stock expected literally a week later, and there have been people that have been going into Ian Hill the Ramblings chat, because we talk games in there as well, by the way, not much but some, and this lady who's lovely, she's a really nice lady, talks about films, TV, all that sort of stuff, said that she got hers a week later and she's really enjoying it. That's the thing, enjoy it, enjoy what you buy, I must admit, I wish I had more time. I'm going to try and make time this afternoon to have a little go on mine. And you continue, Colin. Daft question this week. He just wants me to trip up. How late can you be and still be fashionably late, as I finish watching this on Friday? Fashionably late. You hear that, don't you, with the wedding? All that sort of stuff. Oh, the bride's fashionably late, etc., etc. Would I be wrong in saying it's got to be under 30 minutes and if possible 15? There have been times where I've been on a chat channel and I've waited ages and ages and ages for the chat to start. You know, I've been in the background like other chatters, waiting for it to begin. And even with Ian Hill, the Ramblings, and I have a problem with my mum. Like, she'll want to go to the toilet 10 minutes before I'm about to go live. And of course, that whole process takes 20 minutes or more. It's getting the commode, getting my mum up, getting, you know, the trousers down, her going for a wee, getting a pad on, putting it herself up, getting her back in the chair, getting rid of the bucket, cleaning up afterwards, putting the furniture back in place. It's a 20-minute job, just for the toilet and the commode. And we've been as late as 25 minutes, and I'd say that was fashionably late. Do you know what I mean? That's a guess. I really don't know, Colin. It infuriates me being late. I used to set off from work to get to a building that I had to do a network job on, and I'd set off 45 minutes earlier than the time it takes that it says, and then got caught in traffic and have ended up being at the office 10 minutes late, and it's pissed me off because I want to be there early, have a cup of coffee, speak to some people, and then do the job. It annoys me, and even when I'm going to somewhere like Bicester, which is my place of work, when I do manage to go to the office, and I've set off, and I've not ended up being late, but not ended up being early either, you know, as early as I'd like, because I like to get settled, you know, set my laptop up, get the monitors correct, look at my emails before I even start doing stuff, all of that. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'd say it's got to be within half an hour, and I think really fashionably late is like a 15-minute thing, 20-minute. Sorry, it's such a crap answer, and thank you so much, Colin. What a great channel you have. What a nice bloke you are. We always get on. We had a nice chat, you know, with Main Meister. I'd love to do some more live stuff and invite you on. Maybe I'll do that. It's just very difficult with my mum. I'd love to be able to answer on your blog more than I have done. I think I've put something this month there. You know, like you, I don't mention people unless they've mentioned me, just purely as a community thing. If I watch something, I want people to know what I've watched. If I haven't watched it, then I don't comment upon it. There are a lot of people now that I watch, and sometimes I've missed the odd one. I hope they don't feel bad about it. It's just one of those things. Do you know what I mean? But yours is one I religiously look out for, and I've even gone to the point, and you've seen this yourself, that I've gone to Twitch and seen you do stuff. Don't do that for everybody, I can tell you now, which means that you are a very important person that I watch, and I hope you appreciate that, and I'm sure you do. Salute, my friend, and we move to Wee Bob Art, and he's put, "Hi Del, watching along for a second time as I was distracted on the first one. Always I love using my slow cooker for Sunday dinners, stews, roast chicken. I'm hungry now. I haven't watched Doctor Who since Jodie days. Got frustrated at the peachy nature of the show, but loved Tennant, Capaldi and Matt Smith. This is all the new stuff. I'm more a classic one, but I did like my time with Tennant and Eccleston and so forth. Friends come and go throughout life, sadly, and sometimes it's just natural, and other times it may be due to issues. But you never know. It is like that for everyone I know, including me. I love a good bit of Battenberg cake that you mentioned. Yeah, food. I'm really hungry now. I haven't been doing YouTube videos recently due to family things that are going on. And I do recognise that, my friend, and I long for you to come back and do your stuff. I think it's great that you do that community thing. I wish I could do more of that. I tried to put the odd thing in there saying, hey, if you've got any thoughts, put a comment in, all that sort of stuff. But I don't want it to come across as begging. And I have left certain times stuff, and I've had a couple of answers. but not enough really for me to think, oh, I need to do that as a regular thing. So it's great that you do that. It puts me on my toes a little bit. Can Anyway, question. I watched a movie called Echo Valley. The movie annoyed me, but it was a good movie. Can you name a movie where you just dislike nearly every character? Sometimes because they are just too close to life, rather than the ideal type of characters we sometimes see in movies. Oh, wow. I'll tell you what, on telly the other day, they had a comedy called Movie 43. It's a parody type thing. Lots and lots of skitty type jokes, and it had Halle Berry in it and Stephen Merchant. And they were trying to do one-off stuff. It was very, very unfunny, and the characters were not likable one bit. I couldn't imagine these two ever going out on a date together. I couldn't imagine Stephen Merchant even approaching Halle Berry and saying, "Do you want to go on a date with me sometime?" But that's not the point. It's whether the characters were likable. They weren't just very nice, likable people. Even these two lads that were at the computer talking to it about certain scenarios. I thought that was bloody awful, Movie 43. This is a bit far out, but I did see the film version of the musical Cats. And that offended me. That was awful. I've seen Cats at the, in London at the theatre. And I've come away going, well, it wasn't really my thing, but it was all right and it was well done. This thing wasn't even well done. Had that, what's that bloke who was in Gavin and Stacey? James something or other. Anyway, awful. I think I had Judi Dench in it as well. Makeup was all right. Characters were awful. No, didn't like that one bit. Let's bring a Marvel film in, shall we? One that was dislikable to me because I grew up reading the comics and fell in love with the characters. And that was Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four. Yeah, and they've got a film coming out this year. There was a 2015 reimagination, and it had a black person playing Human Torch and that sort of stuff. But that didn't offend me. It wasn't that. It's just that the characters, they just seemed out of character from what I read. Doctor Doom wasn't that Doctor Doom. It was, and Mr. Fantastic was that sort of person that I thought was aloof and just into his science, and this person wasn't that either. Sue Storm was sort of the person that was frustrated because she always thought she was being treated like a girl, never really feeling like part of the team, and there generally just as a protector rather than as a weapon. And it was the arguments where she wanted to have a husband as a husband, not a person that was constantly working late in the lab all the time. I didn't get these feelings when I was watching that 2015 Fantastic Four film. It had a lot more issues other than that, but that's the characters. The characters is central to that particular comic. It's a character-driven book, so the film has to be the same. It has to be a character-driven film, and I didn't get that. It all seemed to be one big spectacular thing over one next big spectacular thing, and it didn't pull right with me. No. I think that's enough. Hope that gives you some joy in certain films. Sorry they're not anything obscure that you probably haven't seen, but I have to look for this Echo. Was it Echo Valley? Did you say it was called? I probably have seen it, but I can't think what it is. Another little sip. And we've got my friend Muckman-Movies, who's given me a game to play, and he's going to be seeing me play that game this week. Hopefully, I'll try and get at least one of these games done today. Get it out today as well, or maybe tomorrow, because I like to get the blog out and have at least a day's worth of people watching it before I do something else. But anyway, Muckman's put, salutations, Delboy. I totally get what you mean when you said that you were asked to fill in an anonymous form questionnaire at work, but then you were left out of doing the training of younger members of staff. I never trust them when they say that they are anonymous, especially when they ask what age you are, department and office you work in at the start. They can then narrow it down, and it's exactly right. There's lots of staff surveys. Oh, it'll be anonymous, and then they come back saying you didn't fill this in. And you know I didn't fill it in if it's anonymous. It drives me batty. Right, makes my teeth itch. Question: unless you're happy in your job, what job would you have liked to have done instead? Or what did you aspire to do when you were growing up whilst at school? I initially wanted to be a pilot until I had to start wearing glasses. I then wanted to be an illustrator for comic/book and record covers. But it's a very complicated career path to take. So I ended up in technical drawing in consulting structural engineering. That's a wonderful job, man. I didn't know that. I used to be good at woodwork, by the way, and I did a technical drawing class, and I got my O-level in woodwork, and I got a high grade in CSE in technical drawing. I used to have a technical drawing set and a drafts board, and I used to do plans, you know, left view, top view, and so forth, with an isometric one and all the dimensions and keys. So that's very interesting, that. And comic books are done a totally different way. Flowing art boxes that, depending on the number of boxes that there are on per page, tells the story in a very unique way. Some crossing over, some character art outside of the boxes. They've done all of that recently. Back in the day, it used to be 9 panels per page, and you could reduce it down and make the artwork larger, but you know, generally it was 3 boxes, 3 boxes, 3 boxes, 3 lines. So 3 times 3. Digressing a little bit here. And of course, artwork for albums, wow, that's very intricate. In fact, a lot of it is painted, isn't it? And then photostated and put on the front covers, along with photography and other stuff, of course. But some of the best albums I saw were by Elton John, were Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. That was a fantastic album. It looks like something out of Alice in Wonderland, that particular cover. Marvellous. But you state, what would I have liked to have been? I was never very thought of as being very artistic and more technical. So I always wanted to be an editor of a film. And I'll tell you the reason why. Working very closely with the director, sitting in a personal environment, editing a film by cutting this out and splicing this together, or putting this splice of information later on in the film or whatever, intrigues me, and I'd love that. But of course, I went to secondary school, went to careers class, and they told you what your grades would probably offer you. And there was always a type of prove me wrong attitude at these meetings. But yeah, that's an interesting question. Really like that. So yeah, it was a film editor that I really, really wanted. I didn't really care about working outside. It never bothered me. It was all didn't happen. I'm sure that would fall by the wayside if I actually did the job. Pilot? Well, I've always wanted to fly a plane. I always wanted to fly helicopter. I did fly a helicopter. I managed to go up in a glider, get enough hours gliding for me to get information for flying in a helicopter. But definitely wasn't for me. Oh yeah. So that's brilliant that we've got some traits in common. Man, thank you very much and salute. I hope everybody goes and looks at your channel. Looking forward to your next pickups, which will be sometime this month. We're getting very close to the end now, so we're very interested to see what you picked up on a month that I think has been fairly lean for stuff. And we move forward to my friend Martroid, who's put, oh yeah, I'd love to see a Switch 2 video from you, Del. I know I could just search YouTube and I'd be able to watch loads of them. But I'd much rather see something that someone I know and whose opinion I value, if that makes any sense. Well, it does, and thank you that you think that my opinion you value. I've never had anybody really say that to my face. Maybe at work a couple of times when I was a manager, and I gave my ideas, but not personal. So that's great. Thank you so much for that. We've got one more comment, and it says, and it's from my friend Robert's Retro Gaming. So I'm going to say salute to my friend Martroid. And we'll go to Robert's Retro Gaming. He's put, hey Del, nice to see you. Regarding the Beach Boys, they were a favourite of mine, and I listened to a lot in my younger days. Interestingly, one of my daughters went through a similar product when she was a teenager and listened to them all the time. The workplace stuff, self-evaluation front. Sadly, modesty does not serve you. You are right to think that you don't know everything about a subject, but if you know it backwards and forwards and you can teach it, go ahead and give yourself the highest rating. Skew yourself a lot higher than you are inclined to. You may never get, your co-workers are doing that. You strike me as competent and conscientious. It is a sad truth that there are those who are best competent often, they are in need of corruption. Yeah, I can understand all of that, and that's great. Thank you so much for the kind words. Never has anybody said sort of things like that. That's really nice. So that's the end of the comments. So we can move away from that now. So I'll minimize that. Just going to take another little break, and when I come back, we're going to be talking about what I've watched on YouTube. So we're very, very near the end, and we're doing quite well for time. So hope you're enjoying it up till now. Back in a moment. And we move on to what I've watched on YouTube. I like this section. It sort of like tells you a little bit about things I enjoy, or stuff that I've seen that I've not enjoyed, or my friends, all this stuff that I watch of theirs, I tend to get a big kick and a benefit from. So absolutely marvellous, which is why I'm always saying to and promoting people that I watch, because, it's just bewildering, the amount of people that are out there doing this. But some of them just don't come across in the way that I like. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing to say that they're bad or anything. It's just don't get round to either watching them or seeing them or whatever. But there's 4 that I always watch and that are watched on YouTube, and that's This Week in Retro, Tech Moan, Gadget Show, and Chronologically Gaming. And This Week in Retro always has 3 subjects, and this week it was Checkmate for ChatGPT, Wing Commander, and Plug It In. And there was some interesting stuff in there. There was stuff about the Wing Commander one was quite good. There was a comment in there actually that I agree and disagree with. It said that Wing Commander on the Amiga should be considered a benchmark to show you just what you can and can't do on that machine. You definitely need an accelerator. After what they were saying about the PC version being too fast on machines past a 386. And I agree and I disagree, you see, because the Amiga came out in 1985, and I was one of these ones that got it very, very early. I was incredibly lucky. I had an A1000. But what you have to understand is that there's people out there that have got channels like 8-Bit Guy. Talk about him later on. 8-Bit Guy, who explained to you how the screen makeup works. That it's got all these custom chips. It's got a clock speed of this, and then explains to you what some things get hindered by because of the way that the screen makeup is done. Like how you get 2 colours, 4 colours, 16 colours, 32 colours, and whether that processor is then hindered because of it. Now, Wing Commander came out at a time where we were moving through CGA, EGA, and VGA in graphics. It was an Origin game. It came out in 1990. That's 5 years after the Amiga. And the PC has a more open architecture. But its graphics processor was rarely changed. But its main processor could be with accelerator boards. And when you consider it came across like this guy was going, yeah, your Amiga's no good, is not even as good as a 386. And in some ways it's true, and in other ways its clock speed was quite fast for the time, but it was 5 years old at this particular point in time, and it had no graphic card. It had a graphic chip that was on the board, and you never really changed it. So of course a game like Wing Commander would run like shit. You see what I mean? If you try and do it as close to the original as possible. So yeah, where I do understand what the guy was or girl was trying to say, I think it's a bad analogy, to be quite honest. It was designed for the PC. It was designed for the PC to run at a certain speed for the machines of that time, and on a graphic card that was out at that time. There was no Amiga 1200 this particular period of time, and even so, the Amiga's always tried to be the same way in regards to its graphics. I think it's more to do with money and development. Commodore were great with development early on, and then basically were money efficient later on. What they could get away with, they thought, So this is why I find these interesting, these shows like This Week in Retro, with what people say. It sparks a comment or a topic to talk about later on. But I thought that one came across like, yeah, the Amiga may have been the singing, all dancing, but it was shit at this, wasn't it? Type of thing. When I got my Amiga, the amount of PD software that I had at the beginning with Mandrabolt generators, ray tracing software, the amount of things that I was trying to do, and the way that it drew its graphics were just a marvel to me. The hold and modify mode, all of that. It was 1985. Think about it. What was out there? Christ, the NES had only just started its popularity in the States, when it considers to be a custom chip console. So yeah, So the next one was Tecmo, and I mentioned what his was last week. It was the Nebula Cosmos 4K SE projector, and he was showing this because he wanted to show how projectors are getting smarter. This thing has a self setup, so it was very interesting to watch. But of course I had to wait until my blog had finished for me to watch the whole of it. So I watched the whole of it. Brilliant, just as good as all the other Tecmo stuff that I've watched. And the Gadget Show was back. Yes, they managed to bring out like a 50-minute sort of like we're back type thing. And they were talking about the Switch 2 and the ROG Xbox Ally, which is a handheld that it's competing with. That was quite interesting. Really liked it. It was just nice to see Susie back with as well. And chronologically gaming, now that his PC's built, he started off a little bit slow. He's done one live show that was on Tuesday and showed off 1982 December Continued. But later on, he did a missing games that he didn't cover, which was from 1975. And the reason that he didn't cover them is you can't emulate them because they were mechanical. So that was quite nice. Liked both of those. Looking forward to him going back to normal. That would be really good. And then I watched as well a channel called Amplified, which had an episode called Elton John's Grand Farewell, The Journey of Rocket Man. Yeah, because famously Elton John turned around and said he was no longer doing live shows. His life interests have changed to bringing up his kids and a family life. And so huge tours are now out of the question. But he did want to make it clear that he might do little things, little personal stuff. But it's just tours out of the question. So if he's bringing out an album, you won't see a tour of that album, you know, across the world and all of that. Nah, not his thing anymore, not his bag. And his late 70s now. Totally get it why as well. We'll see. The bug will be there for him to get out there. But anyway, then there was a channel called Video Tasties. And it was an interview with Sylvester LeVay. Now, you might not have heard of him, but he's a musician that did the music to Cobra, the film. And he did the main theme to Airwolf, amongst other TV themes. Very well liked and considered in the industry. Nice guy. Loved this interview. Gave me an insight into what the world was like back then when he was trying to do main themes for things. That was good. Then there's the 8-bit guy that I just mentioned before. These are all old videos though. They were various Commodore history videos. So I watched about the PET and the VIC-20, the Commodore 64, the 64C, the Amigas, and so forth and so forth, along with other stuff in regards to the media, the hard drives, the tape decks, all of that, how it worked. Brilliant. Love those. Seen them before. It was nice to go over them again. Then I saw the Lewis Nichols show. Now, the Lewis Nichols show is one I'd never heard of before, but it came up because it was about Peter Davison. It was an interview with Peter Davison talking about the whole of his history. It was quite interesting to look beyond Doctor Who for Peter Davison, you know, like All Creatures Great and Small, Sink or Swim, all of those shows that he did. A Very Peculiar Practice, which I loved, by the way. In there was a girl in that I thought was gorgeous, and it was a girl that he was dating in the first season. She was lovely. Forgot what happened to her, but anyway, it was nice to get an insight on Peter Davison and what he'd like to do now he's in the later part of his life. Then there was one called Game Ranks. Don't really watch too many of these shows, Game Ranks. You know exactly what it is, a ranking of games. This one was 10 games that turned out to be scams. I thought to myself, a game is a scam? What was all that about? And yes, he listed some titles where they either didn't bring out the product or the product did come out and it was drastically different to what people were expecting, and therefore are considered scams. So that was great. And that's all that I watched on YouTube that's not part of my friends and stuff. Just gonna have a little sip. Finished it already, bloody hell. Might have to do another pause. But we get to film, TV and soundtrack YouTube. So this is all the stuff about films and TV and soundtracks I like to watch. And we've got my friend Ian Hill, the Ramblings, as always. And my God, man, he's done some stuff. My God. He's done top 5 comedies from 1968 to 75. Packages from eBay, World of Books and Unboxings. Doctor Who review of The Twin Dilemma, Colin Jones's first story. X-Files review season 4 episode 8, a fantastic season for the X-Files. Anything past the first 3 Certainly upped its stride. Absolutely brilliant. Then we've got Why Sergeant Pepper is the greatest Beatles album, and his deliberation on that. Couldn't really fault it. I mean, he's quite right with what he was saying. And then he did a live with me on Wednesday. Isn't that lovely? Winding up with a little bit of me thrown in there. So that was marvellous. What else did I watch with my friends? Well, you got Mondo Chelovic Movies. Mentioned him last week. His output is regular, but not a huge amount, which is what I like. He did a Hammer horror unboxing and review of the film. What's it called? Shatter. And I saw that out and about when I was in Birmingham with Jim Jam and Denny. And I didn't buy it then, but I did put my pre-order in for Quatermass Experiment. And, of course, now Quatermass Experiment 2. But it was nice to go back to Quatermass Experiment, and I did download a trailer. So I might talk about that a little bit. But other than that, it was a great little show. Loved it. We've got Playtendoguy, who did a little homage to a TV show, I think it's called Tremors from 1984. It was a review. That was great. Watched that and really enjoyed it. Then I saw something from Did You See That? A friend of mine who does chat stuff and movie stuff and all of that sort of stuff. He did first time watching 28 Days Later and first time watching 28 Weeks Later. That's because I think he's seen the 28 Years Later one that came out early this year. So that was brilliant. Then you got classic soundtracks. And it was difficult for one for me to listen to, but I was skimming through some tracks and one came up by James Horner. And it was Bicentennial Man. I haven't thought about that film in a long time. And I looked and I have actually got the Blu-ray. I haven't got the 4K of it. It was really quite good. There was some stuff in there in regards to robots and so forth. So that was quite good. Really enjoyed that. Bicentennial Man is one of those Marmite films. It's liked, it's hated, equal measure. Some people see results in Bicentennial Man and others do not. I just find it a good, entertaining, sad flick at the end. Brilliant. But the music is second notch, by the way, and Celine Dion does a end credit montage, which is nice. And then the last one is Pugwall 311. Sorry, 3:16. That's it. Pugwell 3:1 and 6. And he did a discussion because he was about to do a marathon on Star Trek, all the way up to the Undiscovered Country, the original cast. So it was nice to see that. What it done was brilliant and deliberated well. That's marvellous. Just turning the page and just going to go and splash my face again. It won't be a moment. Oh, got that wrong. And we move on to Game and Tech YouTube, which is mostly my friends that are part of my Discord and people I've known for years and through Mainmeister and other friends. And we get to the first one, which is Down the Rabbit Hole. Fantastic channel, brilliant, lovely guy. He did a couple of videos. Ruffles versus Walkers, cheese and onion. Are they not the same thing? Question mark. Now, he's from Canada, but you can get English food over there, like Walker's Crisps. Now, I've been to America and I've eaten Ruffles, and I do know that they're ridged and Walkers are not. But I've chosen Ruffles cheese and I think it's sour cream crisps, and they are not the same, but he thinks that they are the same. Weird, interesting tastes. But the one thing I didn't do is eat a Walker's crisp and then not clean my palate and then eat another crisp and go, is there a difference? I always knew that the Ruffles had this sort of aftertaste to them. Walkers I find very strong flavours. You know, they're really strong at the beginning, and then they sort of like go off. And that's what makes you eat them. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, I want that strong taste again. Oh, right, okay. Now I want that strong taste again. That's how I eat them. So that was interesting. Then he went to he did a sort of like a showboat around a gaming event. It was a Vancouver Retro Gaming Expo 2025. Never been to Vancouver. Looked like a great event. He's been there before. He's bought some stuff from there before and then showcased it off. I'm sure some little Game Boy Advance games. But always nice to see that. And then he did a Star Frontiers, which is a Dungeons and Dragons type game, but he was more a philosophical review of flying cars. Now, I like these because I'm out of my depth. First of all, I love Dungeons and Dragons and I always wanted to play it but never had any friends to do it. But also, it didn't make me think like he does. And he was talking about flying cars in reality, right? Now, he was talking about the fact that there's certain films and all that sort of stuff where people have gone under a truck or something, but it's a flying car, and that they come out the other side perfectly okay. And he never understood that because surely the whatever equipment is underneath that vehicle would just pressurize you or pulp you or whatever. And I must admit, when I looked at science fiction, I always looked at it that the writers didn't have to explain it because your own imagination filled in the blanks. And I always thought to myself, there's probably an anti-gravity thing there. And it probably uses rays that's not harmful to us. And that's why there's always a sort of buffering of light underneath it, which is really just to show it's flying. It's not actually to show that there's any energy being used. And if I was to think about it in reality, gravity is based on mass, isn't it? We're drawn to mass. So it's constantly inwards, pulling us inwards, which is why we stick to the ground. And and sort of car vehicles are supposed to be that fly. I suppose are supposed to be like hover vehicles, like our hovercrafts that we've had around since the 70s, or craft that use anti-gravity type means. And I can't imagine how noisy an anti-gravity machine would be. I can't. I just think of it as being in a room somewhere and there's a computer in there and it's compensating all the time in regards to how much it has to do to compensate gravity on where you are in the planet, what road and structure that you're going across, whether it be flat or rough or desert or whatever. And I just thought to myself, if it was noisy, there'd be noise dampening things in there or something like that. I could, in my head, I'm writing these things to make it work for the scene that I'm watching. I've seen John Pertwee, not on a big hovercraft that goes across water, but small hovercraft that went across land and water that he did for his Doctor Who show. And he actually tells a story actually of how he nearly killed the camera crew with driving this hover vehicle because you couldn't work out which direction it was going to go because it uses wind turbine technology. And of course, you got to compensate for the wind. So not only have you got to concentrate on anti-gravity and how you would turn gravity off or how you would make it so that you are always 2 foot off the ground with an anti-gravity computer and all that sort of stuff. You've also got to think about thrust, because thrust is something totally different. That's pushing you forwards and then ultimately braking, which is thrust in the opposite direction, or a way of braking with flaps and all sorts of stuff like aircraft. But we're talking about something as nimble as a car. So you wouldn't be able to like put the brakes on because there's no friction. There's nothing like that. So it's an interesting talk. Made me think. My God. So I really did like that. And salute, my friend. Thank you very much. It was very entertaining free shows. Then there's Robert's Retro Gaming. Oh my God, look at the stuff that he's done. And I believe he's done some stuff since I wrote this down. And I wrote this down yesterday. So he's done Dwarf Fortress Classic Episode 6, No Man's Sky Episode 45, Spectrum Game Freddy Hardest, Atari 8-Bit Games, Silent Service, Real Sports Soccer, and 2 Maze. And I believe he's done other stuff since then. So like I said, don't take it as read that that's it. It's constantly stuff coming out during the day, which is why I've probably missed one. But it'll appear in the next show, so there's no problems there. I know where it ends. It ends with 2 Maze. So that's great. Then we've got my friend Steve's Gaming Part 2, and my little salute. You bastard, I fucking hate you. But he's also got, greedy little sod is Steve. He's got 2 channels now. He's got Steve's Spectrum Zone. But I concentrate on the Steve's Gaming Part 2. It's where I came from. I like the variety of the different computers, not just one. But I have stumbled across into the Spectrum Zone. I'm always willing to learn something new. But anyway, he did this week HomeSoft Disk 68, Commodore 64 Shorts Eagle Empire, BBC Shorts Caris Cavern, and Commodore 64 Shorts Jet Pulse Jack. So all very great stuff there, absolutely marvellous, loved it. Every second and every video in there was absolutely marvellous, loved that. And I think he's just done an arcade game called Pulstar. If you've never seen that game, my God, that is infuriating. Go and watch that video, marvellous. So if you're not going to Steve's Gaming Part 2, remember he's got Steve's Spectrum Zone, a second channel. Then we get to my friend Colin Jones, aka Ponder. He did a blog this week, number 88, and I happened to manage to leave a comment this week. Absolutely marvellous. Hate it when I mean to and can't and all that sort of stuff, or I run out of time. He did a Tubers High Score Challenge, which is Atomic Runner Chelnov, which is a classic arcade game, one that I didn't really see in the arcades, but I did play the home editions that were converted. And then he did Eugene's Everything C64 June Challenge, which is Minor 2049er. Absolutely marvellous. One of my favourite games. Love that game. And we move on to 20th Century Gaming. Mark, that is. And can't fault him, his channel was great. He's got his consoles out ready to go. And he did Graviton, 2 final mission standoffs. He did ZX Spectrum Roller Coaster, which is a platformy game where you have to pick up things. Absolutely marvellous. And he did the top 20 ZX Spectrum games, because he doesn't like to sort of like rank games too much. It's very much a tongue-in-cheek type thing, but it was great. And then we've got my friend Mainmeister. What can I say about him? My God, he got me into this. So it's his fault. You could actually go and have a word with him. But he did Ocean Software Games on the Fly. Brilliant. That was marvellous. And then he did a Friday Waffle. Absolutely marvellous. So that ends the written section of the blog. And it moves us to what I've bought. So I'm going to put the overhead cam on. There we go. And you can see some of the stuff that has arrived this week. Some of it is old, some of it is new. All of it I'm looking forward to watching. So the first one is a film that was recommended by Muckman and Ian Hill. And that is Tracker. looking forward to that. I bought the Blu-ray edition from World of Books. It was only a couple of quid, so that was marvellous. And then also in the same vein, there was this one, Cadfael, which is an ITV production of monks solving crimes during medieval Britain. So I really do like that because it's a period drama type thing. Doesn't take itself too seriously either. Then you've got this steelbook, I Know What You Did Last Summer. And I remember seeing this at the pictures and seeing it once on video, but didn't really do anything much with it. But I will say this, it was an entertaining thing and it flooded the market with similar type of films. So it's great to see that one in my collection. And last but not least, or should I say penultimately, not least, we've got Swordfish. A nice 80s romp. One that basically I like to have in my collection, like Broken Arrow and all of that. They're all great films. And then the last one comes in a huge box. Look at this. Wow. Right? And it's by Hammer, if you haven't guessed it already. And it's their big, epic next release, which is the Quatermass Experiment. Look at that for a box. It's gorgeous. Looking forward to getting a screen protector for this one. And then it's just got the Hammer logo at the back. And a bit of a jump cut, I'm afraid, because I forgot to turn the microphone off and put the desktop audio on. So, I'm just tagging this in on the end. Hopefully it won't interfere too much. So let me turn that mic and get that pesky desktop audio on and get this sorted. Here we go.
You can't escape it.
Maggie, look!
Nothing can destroy it. It's coming for you from space to wipe all living things from the face of the earth. Beware of the creeping unknown. This woman is about to learn a terrible secret. She will never be the same again. Because this man knows that same secret, he will never speak again. To both of them has come terror in the form of the creeping unknown. Three men went into outer space. Only one of them came back. Came back a strange, distorted creature, haunted and possessed by something beyond human understanding. What was the terrible secret he could not tell them?
There's a whole new world out there, a wilderness, uncharted. And he's been there and come back. He's got the map. Unlock his mind for me, Briscoe, and find it. I know you can do it.
It isn't just a question.
I know the strain and tension you've been under, but to stop now when we're so close.
Brian Donlevy. He dared an experiment that shocked a nation.
You've destroyed him like you've destroyed everything else you've touched, Kent.
There's no room for personal feelings in science, Judith.
An experiment that created the creeping unknown.
I want to cordon around the entire area, evacuate all public, get information to check up every movement that's likely to take place inside this radius tonight.
Yes, sir. Warn everyone not to touch anything unusual they may find in the streets.
So the boy and girl are making out, right? When they hear over the radio that this lunatic killer's escaped from an insane asylum.
That's not the way it goes. The boy goes for help, and the girl stays in the car, and she hears this, like, scratching sound.
No, he's been decapitated. No, he was gutted with a hook.
What's wrong with you? Watch out!
Oh my God.
You think he's dead?
We can't just leave him here.
Oh, tell me, little Miss Prelaw, what's the charge for manslaughter? We make a pact. Right here and now we take this to our grave.
For the last year, 4 friends have kept a secret.
Are you on drugs? No. Well, then what is wrong? I've had a rough year.
But not all secrets stay buried.
Somebody sent this to me. Oh my God. Someone knows.
I know what you did last summer. Ooh.
What they thought would be a new beginning
Toast to us.
is becoming a dead end.
Somebody tried to kill you last night. We have to go to the police.
If he wanted me dead, he could have done it.
And the mistake they made
It was an accident.
There was no accident. It was murder.
What if he's still alive? Hey! What are you doing here?
is coming back to haunt them.
Oh my gosh.
He's after me, too.
I got a letter.
I got run over. Helen gets her hair chopped off. Julie gets a body in a truck, and you get a letter? That's balanced.
She's waiting for us to unravel. The wait is over. What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
I know what you did last summer.
Who is he? He exists in a world beyond your world. What we only fantasize, he does. He lives a life where nothing is beyond him. He takes what he wants, when he wants.
So how do I find him?
You don't find him. He finds you. Good job.
Senator, we have a problem.
Did you know that I can buy nuclear warheads for $40 million each? Hell, I buy half a dozen and even get a discount.
What do you think is going to happen if he starts tying up loose ends?
My employer wants to meet you.
He'll pay you just to meet you, Stan.
You ever heard of Operation Swordfish?
Nope.
It's a sweet deal. $9.5 billion. Do you have any idea of how much money that is? We go in over the phone lines, pop the firewall, sit back, wait for the money. So what we need from you, Stanley, is a worm. Marco, let's give him some incentive.
Hey, what are you doing?
I have been told that the best crackers in the world can do this in 60 minutes. Unfortunately, I need someone who can do it in 60 seconds.
You're kidding.
Go! 45 seconds.
You're gonna get these people killed!
20.
Who are you?
I'm not what you think I am.
More time.
Come on, Stan. 15. I think that you think I'm a bank robber. The truth is that I'm worse.
Control, be advised that this is now an aerial pursuit.
Hold on. 3, 2, 1. Too bad. You gotta die.
No, wait!
Not everything ends the way you think it should.
John Travolta, Hugh Jackman, Halle Berry, and Don Cheadle. Swordfish.
Yeah, there we go. So, yeah, apologies that I've had to jump cut that and put that in. Microphones, my God. Bugbane. But I hope that you've enjoyed this blog. That's another one done for this week. Quite an eventful time for me. And I hope it's been enjoyable. Some of the things I've watched, some of the stuff that's out there. Go out, support those people that I've mentioned. They're doing content every day. Worthy of your time. And with that, salute. Until next week. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.